Welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. It is Tuesday, May the 7th. Like always, we are live right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas, and on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. For all you people that are around West Texas who are getting to listen to us tonight, welcome. I hope you guys had a great day. I hope you're ready for some talk about health. It's going to be a good show, I think. I got them all. I got my man David Perlmutter here. I got Robert Lustig. I got Mark Hyman. I got Dr. Walls. We got some heavy hitters on the show tonight. I don't have them personally in the office. Maybe someday we will, but I got their books, and that's a good enough start for me because that's enough that I can share with you some information that I think might help you. And we're going to talk about some thoughts today and some microbiome stuff. So I hope you will stick around for the show. And last night was a pretty good show. We had multiple things that we talked about, and I've got that list. We talked, last night I said we covered carpal tunnel, and I think we will get to carpal tunnel tonight, just because I think it's something that's so common, and a lot of people don't understand it, and they're not exactly sure if they have carpal tunnel, if they just got pain in their hand, they got pain in their fingers, and they're not exactly sure where that pain's coming from. And so if we get to it tonight, it'll be in the second half of the show, but I think that's on the list. That's one of the things on the list that we have tonight. But I had a good conversation. I had one of our listeners last night, and I can't wait to meet this guy and his wife. But I had one of our listeners last night on the show. He sent me a message, and then I called him last night. We had probably, I don't know, it was an hour-long conversation after the show was over. Maybe I don't remember exactly how long it was, but it was 42 minutes. Yeah, so we had a 42-minute conversation last night, and man, I really appreciated the comments that he made, and I appreciated the interest that he had to try to be healthier. And he did make a few comments to me, and I was like, we gotta address those issues. And so it got me thinking. And this initial part right here is not necessarily from what we had last night on the conversation. This is just something that this thought right here is coming to me from. It's kind of become a trend, and I think we should address it because I think we should understand what has happened to us as a society. What has happened to us, and it's by design. It's about 100% by design. And you can go back and you can watch our shows on Facebook, YouTube, and X. But you can go back and watch our shows from several months ago, and we were. Let me see where we're. I don't remember how far back it was, but we did some shows about. I'm not going to look it up right now, but about the medical establishment in the United States and how that all happened, and Andrew Carnegie and how he got Dr. Flexner and the whole Flexner report, and then we read that book Blitzed, I think it was, with the German medical model and all that sort of thing, right? So where we've gotten to is what came to me about getting ready for tonight's show is we have forgotten the fundamental thing that we learned in chiropractic school on the first day, that we have an innate intelligence, that the human is a self-healing organism. We've forgotten that. And I think about it a lot when you cut your finger and you put a Band-Aid on that cut, and it's like, and then somehow it heals itself. And it's like, did the Band-Aid do the healing? And it wasn't the Band-Aid that did the healing. If you scrape yourself, your body repairs it. You repair yourself. And because we have been bombarded on every television station for the last 50 years, we've had and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse as I've gotten older, of how many drug ads that a person sees. And there's a lot of science that goes on with that. And those guys know that, right? There's a lot of science that, what do they say? It takes 7 times or 20 times to get in someone's the top of mind awareness before they actually make a decision to call you. That's like advertising. It's like when we get all these spam calls on our phone, right? Or you go home tonight and check your mail. You'll have 8 pieces of mail or 4 pieces of mail, just trash, like just trash mail that you just throw in the trash and throw in the trash. Just fills up the landfills with trash mail of credit card offers and home insurance offers and get a new loan for this and do your fence, paint your fence with a certain, like all this stuff, right? You get all these things in the mail. Well, why do those people keep sending those things? Well, they keep sending them because they work. They work because we keep exposing ourselves to those thoughts over and over and over again. And finally, it starts to become part of our brain. And now we don't even know it. Subconsciously, we start to fall into that trap. And that's what's happened to us. That's what's happened to us because we don't believe that we are self-healing organisms. I really don't think that based on my experience with people, I don't believe people believe that anymore. And our grandparents did, and our great grandparents did. Like somewhere along the way, if you get a fever today, ask yourself this: if you get a fever today, like right now, all of a sudden you just don't feel good, and you get a fever, how long is it going to be before you take a medication? For me, it's not going to. Like, I don't know. I had 102 fever with COVID for 11 straight days, and didn't take a single medication. Why? Because I believe my body is a self-healing organism. I believe that um, I believe that that my body has the ability to heal itself. Like I believe that a fever is innate intelligence, and it's my body's way of trying to say, okay, look, I've got a virus or a bacteria that's inside my body, and I'm going to get rid of that virus or bacteria. If you get a sinus infection, how long is it going to take before you get a medication? Like 24 hours, 48 hours? How long is it going to take for you to let your child's fever run? How long, if your child is throwing up, how long is it going to take for you to get your child some medication, right? And I think what's happened, based on my people, and my people are wellness people in relationship to the general population. If you come here and you're a regular patient at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, then then you're a wellness person as compared to everybody else in our town, right? You may not be an extreme wellness person. You may not be way over here on the bell curve of wellness, but you're way more wellness than the general population of our town if you come here on a regular basis. But the people that I take care of that come here on a regular basis, there's a lot of those people that jump to medication within 24, 48 hours of not feeling well. They get a sinus infection, boom, they're going to go get something. They get pain running down their leg, boom, they're going to go get something. They'll be back on all kinds of stuff, hydrocodone or cortisone or whatever their thing is within 24, 48 hours. And I think that the reason that they do that, I think the reason we do that, all of us together as a society, I think the reason that we do that is because we've lost the understanding that our bodies are self-healing. Your body has the ability to heal itself. And if you lose that fundamental belief, then you immediately jump to, what drug can I take to fix this problem? And you will do it from the most extreme problems all the way down to the most minuscule problems. And you'll change your microbiome, you'll change your physiology, you'll change your neurology each time that you do that. And that's what the show is going to be about tonight. The show is going to be about how we actually change it. But I just got to think about, you can't just jump into microbiome because and antibiotics and all that sort of thing, because it's the the statements that are made to me. It's one of the things that my dad said to me. He said, Jason, you don't understand, son. He's like, all these people think they got the answer to my problem, and none of these people know how bad my feet hurt. I just don't think he was 75 years old. It, he had gotten to the point where he no longer believed that anything could help his problem. He didn't believe that his problem was solvable because he had tried to do it before and nothing worked. And so he just kind of gave up. He gave up. And that's the saddest thing. The statement when a person comes to me and said, I'll just learn to live with it. I got this thing in my back, but I just kind of learned to live with it. That blows my mind because I think to myself, God put us here on this planet to just learn to live with it. Like that doesn't even make any sense. Why is your machine of a body? I had a girl that's in a wheelchair. Bless her heart. I love her to death. She is a tough cookie. She has had more challenges than probably any other person that I know. She's had so many surgeries. Her poor little old body is just jacked up. She's got the best sense of humor. She tries to make herself work. I mean, she's got a doctorate degree. She's just an amazing human being in a totally trapped body. And she woke up last night, tried to get up. She was laying down reading or watching TV or something, and she got up and she tried to go to the bathroom and do something. And she brings her wheelchair into the office, and she drives her car, but she's got one of those vans that opens the door and you can put the wheelchair in the back. And then she has to crawl herself up to the front. And she got up last night and she couldn't put any weight on her left knee. She just stepped down, and all of a sudden something was wrong with that left knee, and she was in bad shape. And she's had her knees replaced, and I mean, bless her heart, right? So she came in today as jacked up as anybody else is jacked up. She came in today and she sent me a text, and she was like, I can't put any weight on my knee. Can you please help me? And I said, well, can you get to the office, or do I need to come to your house? That was my response. And she's like, no, I could get to the office. So she came in, she got dressed, got ready, and then she came into the house. And then we started looking at her knee. And because I have the belief system that there is some sort of interference in the perfection that's already there. I don't have to fix a person. I never have to fix a person. I didn't have to fix her knee. I just had to figure out what was interfering with the perfection that was already there. See, that's just a fundamental basis that changes the entire outlook on how you approach someone's health, or you approach your own health. Do you believe that you have an innate intelligence that's 100% perfect 100% of the time? If you don't understand that concept, you will think something's wrong, something's broken, something this is something, a fever is wrong, right? You'll think that happened. So what do we do? She came in, she said, my knee hurts. It hurts right there. I said, what'd you do? What do I want to know? Do you have an event that there's some reason that you tore your knee up? Like, did you fall off of a step yesterday? Did you trip off a curb? Did you fall somewhere in your house? Is there some sort of trauma that happened with that knee? And the answer was absolutely not. There was no trauma with the knee. She just laid down, and when she got back up, but she had sat all day long yesterday at work. She didn't have a chance to get up and move, and she was really, really busy, and it was very chaotic at work. And so she got it to she had a really stressful day at work, and she wasn't able to move around at all. And then she went home and she laid down, and when she got back up, her knee was in a bind. And so I told her, I said, look, the knee is like an obedient child. It does what it's told. Unless you hurt your knee some reason, the knee's just doing what it's told, and it's a hinge. And when we grow up, all you people that grew up on a ranch or know anything about growing up on a ranch, all you have to do as a little kid to get in trouble is to jump on the end of a gate. Those big old swinging gates that are from one corral to the next. There's big old swinging gates, and you get to be about 10, 12, 14 years old, and you just jump on the end of that. The cowboys around there will tell you, hey, get off that gate. All the guys that work on the ranch will tell you, don't jump on that gate like that. Why? Because you will bend it. If you jump on the end of that gate and try to swing around, you might bend the hinge on the other end of the gate, right? And the knee joint is just a hinge. So what it's like, why is this knee malfunctioning? So what did I do? I tested that knee a little bit, see if she had any range of motion in it, and then I started to adjust it the way that I know it's supposed to work. The tibia, the lower part of the bone of the knee, and the way it fits in with the femur will sometimes get rotated. And a lot of times the tibia rotates outward. So I'll take my little drop board and I'll drop and I'll work. And what I did with her is I went through some ranges of motion, and I tried to adjust that tibia internally just a little bit to get that thing to line back up the way it was supposed to line up. And then I tried to use my little drop table, but I couldn't even get her knee bent enough to get it down to my little device that I use, my little table that I use. So, but I started looking at her, and when she stood up and her knee dove in towards her other leg. Her right leg was straight, but her left leg, her knee was diving inward towards her other leg. And what does that mean to me? That means internal rotation of the femur. Your leg bone, your femur, your thigh bone is rotating inward. And when it rotates inward, it makes your knee buckle like knock-kneed. It brings your knee in towards your other knee. Now, if I take my finger, which is just a hinge joint, and I twist that joint, and now all of a sudden I start to bend that dude, that hurts. Why? Because this interface between this bone and my finger is not supposed to do that, right? So when I saw that knee cave, I'm like, hey, that glute shut off for some reason. What's going on with that glute? So we adjusted her, and she woke up this morning with a screaming migraine. It was horrible. So we adjusted her. I put her on her side, and I just worked on her pelvis, and then I saw that, and I laid her back down on her side, and we started doing leg raises with that affected hip to try to start to activate that glute, so that glute would counterbalance that internal rotation of that femur, so that we could get her knee lined back up. And then I stood her up and I said, hey, can you do like side leg raises and just raise your leg up to the side? And then she did that. And then I said, all right, now I want you to just try to push that foot, plant that foot on the ground and push that knee back outside and rotate that hip and let that femur come back out, and do that a couple of times. And she was much better. Well, this afternoon when I got back from Littlefield, she sent me a text and she said, I don't know what you did to my knee, but it feels so much better and it's almost straight. My point of the story is not to brag about helping somebody's knee work better. My point of the story is that's the way her knee is supposed to work. I didn't do anything magical. I just started with the idea that she has an innate intelligence. She's a self-healing organism. She has a healing capacity inside her body, and that healing capacity is way smarter than me or Dr. Perlmutter or Dr. Lustig or Dr. Hyman, any of these guys. That innate intelligence that we have is so smart, it could create a symptom if you had it in an environment that's incongruent with health. Think about that. Your knee can create pain in your knee. Your body can create pain in your knee if you put that knee joint into a position that's not stable. And she got up to put her foot on the ground, and she couldn't put any weight on that leg. How amazingly beautiful is that? I told her, I said, that is just genius right there. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And she said, what do you mean? And I was like, why couldn't you why couldn't you put any pressure on your leg? She said, I don't know. Because your brain won't let you put yourself into an environment that it can't stabilize. Your brain won't let you put yourself into a position it can't stabilize. When you step onto something and you're not stable, your brain neurologically turns off all the muscles that are related to that mechanism so that you can't put any weight on your knee. Because if your knee's in a bind and you step on it, you might just break it in half. So your brain has a protective mechanism. Now think about that for a second. Think about how amazing that is. Think about how amazing your body is that it creates a symptom for you. It shuts off your leg. Think about how amazing that is that the brain has the ability to turn your muscles off in your leg so that you won't put any pressure on your leg. Think about how amazing it is that when you pass out, when you lose blood pressure in your brain will pass you out so that you'll fall flat on the floor so that the blood will pool in your body and the blood will go back to your brain. When your brain starts to lose pressure and it starts to lose oxygen and nutrients, it will pass you out. We think, oh my gosh, I passed out. That's horrible. Well, we need to know why you passed out. But the mechanism of passing out is beautiful. The mechanism of passing out is like, that is so smart. Like, how does the brain know how to do that? How does the body know how to be that smart, right? There's an innate intelligence and there's a self-healing organism. So I would just present for your consideration. I would just present for your consideration as humbly as I can present it to you that when you say to yourself, there is no hope for me, you do not, you are, you've lost, you're not speaking the truth. Let me just say it plain like that. You're not speaking the truth. My dad was not speaking the truth, but what he got was what he believed. What's that old saying? If it's up to be, it's up to me. And there's all kinds of those sayings like what you believe is what you manifest. What you believe is what you get. Right? When you believe there's no hope for me, you will set up your life. You will sabotage your health. You will sabotage every solution to make sure that you get exactly what you believe. And that's something. So if you say to me that there is nothing I could do to lose weight, that was 100% true. If that's what you believe, you're 100% right. You're never going to lose any weight because you're not going to believe that you can lose any weight. And you say, well, I've tried 16 things over the years and nothing's going to help me to lose weight. Well, you've been trying the wrong things. You haven't found the right thing yet, and you don't understand WD-40, right? What if that old boy stopped at 38, right? Is his 40th try. We'd have squeaky doors all over the world if he'd have stopped, if he'd have tried 25 times and said, nope, can't figure this out. This is stupid. I'm not going to do it. Right? What did Edison say about the light bulb? Same thing, right? You've failed so many times. Nope, just figured out 200 ways the light bulb doesn't work. That's the thing I was talking about on Monday night when we don't pray with confidence. Last night, we don't pray with confidence and we don't pray with persistence. And if we got stuck in the desert for 40 years, we'd done give up. We would have thrown in the towel if we would have gotten stuck in the desert for 40 years. So let's talk about for a second one of the most important things when it comes to health that we constantly bombard and get all messed up, and that's the microbiome. The microbiome is the insides. It's the bacteria inside the gut, and there's so much to it. I'm going to try to be as simple as I can tonight. And I'm just going to read from these books. I'm going to read some of these chapters or some of these pages from these books so that we get an idea in simple feelings. But here's Hacking of the American Mind. Dr. Robert Lustig. Love this guy. Don't love him personally. He's kind of from New York and he's kind of hard to listen to, but I love his work. I love his life work and I appreciate the heck out of him, right? Your gut feeling. But the more immediate question for all of us is your sugar consumption really under your control? Common wisdom says you are in control of every item you put in your mouth. And common sense would also suggest that it is true, except we know from part 2 in the addiction, you're really not in control. The drugs are doing the talking via dopamine. See, that goes back to our conversation with Charles Zucker. I had this conversation with one of my guys in Littlefield today. Why I'm not going to give up my sugar because I love sugar. I'm not going to give up my Snickers bars because I love Snickers bars. No, you don't. You don't even know it, but you're not in love with the Snickers bar. Your brain is in love with the sugar. That's what happens. Because if I knocked out all the sweet receptors in your tongue, you would still eat the Snickers bar. Even though you couldn't taste the Snickers bar, you would still eat the Snickers bar because the Snickers bar would give you the glucose that you're looking for and that sends into your brain. Hey, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. And then you guys stick around with us on the radio. We'll come back and we'll talk about this microbiome and see if we can tie all this stuff together. Let me answer a quick text right here. We've been trying to solve some problems with the radio sound, so hopefully we get that fixed. You might think that your gut microbiome, consisting of 100 trillion bacteria representing several hundred species and residing inside your intestine, would not be immediately connected to your brain. Nonetheless, your gut microbiome appears to have a mind of its own, and it's very well may control yours. I don't want to get too much farther in that because I might want to read that again right there. But the microbiome, you guys know that. I mean, a lot of you guys will know what that is in the micro when the guts the bugs that live inside your gut. The bugs that live inside your gut, there's lots and lots of different kinds of them, and the way that they function is they eat your food, they eat the fiber, they absorb calories, they handle your immune system. It's 80% of your immune system is in your gut. And so what's going on in there is super important to the way that your health goes. And that's hang on, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought right there. There we go. So when we feed the microbiome the wrong things, then we change the gut bacteria. And when we change the gut bacteria, then we'll end up, it can cause weight gains. One of the things that it could do, and that's what these guys are talking about. So let me get back on here. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we're talking about innate intelligence, and we're talking about trying to fix the microbiome, and that's what we just got into right here. So I'm going to read this part that I just read to the YouTube in the Facebook group. What if something else is also talking, feeding your brain with devious and distracting thoughts, like your bacteria? You might think that your gut microbiome, consisting of 100 trillion bacteria, representing several hundred species and residing inside your intestine, would not be immediately connected to your brain. Nonetheless, your gut microbiome appears to have a mind of its own, and very well a mind of its own. Different nutrients, let's see. The bacteria species found within a person's gut can identify him or her by a unique microbial signature. Yet the human gut microbiome is very clearly and rapidly responsive within a little within as little as 2 days to dietary manipulation. And why not? Different nutrients will make their way further down the intestine based on different aspects of the diet, such as what carbohydrates what carbohydrates you are consuming, whether those carbohydrates are fermented, and whether they are accompanied by the corresponding fiber inherent in that food. Different bacteria like to grow in different dietary soups to different extents. In fact, changes in the microbiome have been associated with increased risk for obesity in both directions. For instance, transferring obesogenic bacteria from one mouse strain to another can cause the recipient mouse to become obese. Listen to what that says. That says if you take the microbiome, the gut bacteria of an obese mouse, and you put it in a skinny mouse, that skinny mouse will become obese. And it goes both ways. Um, this was anecdotally demonstrated in a human where an unfortunate woman who received a fecal transplant to treat her infectious diarrhea became massively obese afterwards. So let me keep going. Conversely, ingestion of certain strains of probiotics, friendly bacteria, or prebiotics, dietary components such as fiber that let friendly bacteria grow, have been associated with weight loss and improvement in certain disease states. Other studies have found probiotics can influence mood and cognition. Microbial diversity may be protective against the various diseases of metabolic syndrome and obesity and possibly depression. Your bacteria talk loud and clear, and apparently your brain listens. Remember, 90% of the serotonin made in your body is used by the gut for various purposes. Serotonin happens to be very versatile. Only 1% of your total body serotonin is in your brain. The rest of it, most of it, is in your gut, impacting, among other things, your level of well-being and contentment. Apparently, a happy gut means a happy you. Okay, so that's reading from The Hacking of the American Mind, Robert Lustig. Well, let's go over and read from Dr. Perlmutter's book. This is the one we didn't cover last night. Last night and the last couple of nights we've been doing the grain brain. This is the brain maker. And I just wanted to read this section on antibiotics. And I wanted you to hear what Dr. Perlmutter said about antibiotics. I vividly remember when I was 5 years old, my father suddenly became weak. And so he tells this story. His dad was a busy neurosurgeon covering 5 or 6 hospitals at the time. And he ended up, he was diagnosed with bacterial endocarditis, an infection of the heart caused by the organism Streptococcus viridans. And so he received a bunch of penicillin and IV penicillin and all that sort of thing. And he said, had it not been for penicillin, the infection would have undoubtedly proven fatal. So I understand loud and clear the importance and effectiveness of antibiotics. Nonetheless, I can't help but wonder about the changes that the microbiome endured during his treatment and how that may have played a role in his current situation with Alzheimer's disease. So all these guys make it. All these guys make the same thing. And I was listening to a conversation coming home and back and forth in Littlefield today. I was listening to a TED Talk with Warren Peters, and I don't even know who Warren Peters is, but he was basically reading from the same exact book when he was talking about and he did a. So if you guys want to look that up, it's on YouTube, and it's called Microbiome, Gut Bugs, and You. Warren Peters, and it's a TED Talk at La Sierra University, wherever that is. So that's just one thing that you can. That's just one thing that you can look up if you would like to. But Dr. Perlmutter goes ahead for the next couple of paragraphs, and he talks about how important antibiotics have been in the whole big scheme of things for people. And he's not by no means bashing antibiotics, and there's a time and a place that we should take an antibiotic, but we've gone overboard. We've gone overboard with that, and it's messing things up. So, of course, antibiotics aren't magic bullets that can eradicate every infection. When used at the right time, however, they can cure many serious and life-threatening illnesses. They have revolutionized medicine, but the pendulum has swung far from those days when antibiotics were rarely available. Today, they are everywhere and far too often overused. And this was in 2015. 4 out of 5 Americans take an antibiotic every year, according to the CDC. About 258 million courses of antibiotics are prescribed in 2010 in the United States for the population of 309 million people. Antibiotics constitute the majority of prescriptions for children under 10 years old. Extravagant use of antibiotics, especially for viral illnesses, which are not helped by these drugs. If you have a cold or a flu and you take an antibiotic, you're not helping yourself. It blew my mind when COVID was here and all these people were going to the hospital and they were giving them an antibiotic. They were going to their doctor and they were giving them an antibiotic. And everybody knows it was the virus, right? The COVID virus. Everybody knew it was a virus, but then how many of us took an antibiotic? And why do we take that? We take it because we think it's candy. We think it's harmless. We don't have any understanding whatsoever about what it does to our microbiome, right? Antibiotics constitute a major prescription. Yeah, to help these drugs, cold and flus, has led to the proliferation of antibiotic-resistant strains of bad pathogens that current antibiotics cannot touch. The World Health Organization has stated, without urgent action, we are heading for a post-antibiotic era in which common infections and major injuries can once again kill. Organizations has called antibiotics resistance one of the top health challenges of the 21st century. And antibiotics are also extensively used extensively in agriculture and farming, and this contributing to the problem of resistance. Warren Peters said that it's like 74% of the total antibiotic use is for the animal supply. And I know that our farmers and ranchers can fix that problem. They can if they understand the damage to it, and a lot of them already have. They're used to treat infection as well as to make animals grow larger and mature earlier. Animal lab studies revealed that big changes occur quickly, as little as 2 weeks, in livestock microbiomes when they received antibiotics. Changes that promote obesity thanks to the kinds of bacteria left in the wake of the antibiotic exposure. More on this shortly. And that caused a significant increase in antibiotic resistance. So you can change the microbiome and make the animal fatter. That's the point I'm trying to make. When you give up because you can't lose weight, you might consider that your microbiome is wrong, not anything else. Maybe your microbiome is wrong, and maybe it's going to take some time to reestablish a proper microbiome. And that's where you could get Dr. Hyman's book, where it talks about the 10-day detox. You can get Dr. Wall's book, The Wall's Protocol, and they will break down, they give you diets and all kinds of stuff. And Dr. Perlmutter's book will talk to you about that as well. All these books have the answers to solving those problems. And I want to go fast forward just a little bit. It says, key to our discussion is, of course, the damaging effects of these drugs on the human microbiome. For example, the mechanism by which antibiotics make cattle, and probably humans, heavier is through changes in the microbiome. Recall in Chapter 4 how I described the difference between the types of gut bacteria that led to more fat storage and weight gain in the types that prevented obesity. These little dudes, and I think I read this the other night, but firmicutes is what I'll call it. I think that's how it is. Firmicutes can harvest more energy from food, thereby increasing the risk of the body absorbing more calories and gaining weight. The guts of obese humans are routinely found to be dominated by firmicutes. as opposed to bacteroidetes. I don't know, I may not be saying that right, but which are predominantly in the guts of lean individuals. What happens when an animal or a cow or a human takes an antibiotic is that the body's microbiome is instantly changed in diversity and composition as the antibiotic immediately wipes out certain strains, leaving others to flourish. And unfortunately, antibiotics can create a massive imbalance where the gut is rife with obese promoting bacteria. Dr. Martin Blazer of New York University is among the researchers who speculate that antibiotic usage contributes to obesity. Did anybody ever think about that? When you decided that you needed to go get an antibiotic, what did you ever think that, man, this might be making me obese? That I might be running the risk of destroying my microbiome, which is going to destroy my immune system. So it's going to increase the chances that I'm going to get sick again. It's going to increase the chances that I'm going to get some sort of yeast infection or some sort of problem like that. It's going to increase the chances that I might become obese. And I haven't even really given my body any time to fight this problem because I really don't believe that I have an innate intelligence, and I really don't believe that I have a self-healing organism. And the commercial said that you should ask your doctor if this is right for you. You better ask your doctor if you can get one of these medications immediately. Which commercial? The 14,000th commercial that you saw in your lifetime. That's the one. The one that you saw over and over and over and over and over again. And they make them out like they're so that Jardian commercial with those big heavy women dancing around in the middle of the street out there, like they're so ridiculous. They make it out like it's a party. Well, why don't we just have a party with this craziness, right? Well, yeah, because it's way easier to understand, right? So, sorry. In fact, the studies have looked at the effects of antibiotics on the particular infamous strain of bacteria that I've already mentioned, H. pylori, a popular target of doctors for patients who suffer from peptic ulcers. While it's been shown to increase the risk of peptic ulcers and gastric cancer, it's a common member of the human gut microbiome community. One of Dr. Blazer's studies done in 2011, he examined U.S. veterans who were undergoing tests to look closely at the upper gastrointestinal tract. Of the 92 veterans, 38 tested positive for H. pylori, 44 tested positive, and 38 tested negative, 44 tested positive, and 10 were intermediate. 23 of the men with H. pylori were given antibiotics, which wiped out the bacteria in all of the men except for 2. And about those 21 veterans who's eradicated H. pylori through antibiotics, guess what? They gained the most weight. Their BMIs increased about 5%, plus or minus 2%. The other vets had no weight change. What's more, their levels of their appetite-stimulating hormone ghrelin increased 6-fold after a meal, indicating that they weren't feeling full yet, and their meals they weren't feeling full yet from their meals and could eat more. Ghrelin is released when you feel like you get that sense of feeling of full. Well, why can you eat more? Because you got a bunch of firmicutes in there. You got a bunch of bacteria that can eat more, and you've got less of your leaner bacteria. So you've just got way more. You've changed your microbiome. We changed our microbiome by feeding. We feed the crackhead bacteria. We feed the bacteria that cause the damage inside of our body when we choose to eat the refined carbohydrates that we talk about all the time. I didn't make that up. I heard it about, I read it, I read it, I read it, I heard it, I read it. There's no question. High levels of ghrelin are also known to increase abdominal fat. So the fact of antibiotics as growth promoters makes sense when you put it all together. the most definitely help pack on the pounds. They most definitely help pack on the pounds in livestock, and they are helping to pack on the pounds too, helping us pack on the pounds too when antibiotics are used to consume food, to consume through foods. As you can see in the graph below, the U.S. leads the way in terms of antibiotic in meat produced. In 2011, U.S. drug makers sold nearly 30 million pounds of antibiotic for livestock, and the largest amount recorded represented 80% of all antibiotic sales that year. The FDA only began testing meat and poultry for antibiotic resistance bacteria in 1996, and the politics of policing antibiotics use is, sadly, an impediment for real and transparent oversight. So I'm not talking trash about ranchers and farmers. I'm not. I'm simply saying that that's a fact that you can change the microbiome in someone, and then you could cause that person to start to have symptoms. And that's the point of the show tonight. The point of the show is to say, listen, if you're dealing with a symptom that you can't quite figure out, if you're dealing with a symptom like MS, if you're Dr. Walls, I showed you guys this earlier. Dr. Walls, this is Dr. Walls in a wheelchair. This is Dr. Walls on a bike. Dr. Walls had MS. This is how I beat progressive MS using paleo principles in functional medicine. You get diagnosed with MS, what are you going to believe? You're going to believe that I've got MS and I got MS for the rest of my life. You get diagnosed with lupus, what are you going to believe? I've got lupus and I'm going to have lupus for the rest of my life. You get diagnosed with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's disease or whatever your diagnosis is, you're going to believe that, and then you're going to say, I don't have the ability to heal myself. There's nothing I can do. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. Right? Listen to this one. This is the next page. Dr. Robert F. Schwab, one of the investigator leading the charge in this area, a research physician at Columbia University Department of Medicine, Dr. Schwab wrote a convincing article in 2013 published in a specialty journal for Nature that outlined the means by which the condition of the microbiome can either promote or prevent cancerous growths. In his concluding thoughts, he emphasized that the value in turning our attention to the study of the microbiome in hopes of finding new therapies for the prevention and treatment of cancer, calling the microbiome the next frontier in medical research. I used an example of a cancer to further accuse antibiotics of ruining an important collaborator in our health, and I actually could just as easily have talked about the exposure to antibiotics and heightened risk of ADHD, asthma, being overweight, diabetes, all of which significantly increase dementia, depression, suicide, and anxiety. They're all, and if you take one more step back from the inflammatory process, you'll find yourself thinking about your gut microbiome. You might be diagnosed, you've got anxiety. I had that conversation with my aunt the other day. Said my cousin has anxiety. What does that mean? Do you have anxiety like I have white skin, like I'm a white guy? Like that means that I'm forever, I don't think I'm ever going to be a black guy. Like I'm pretty sure that the skin that I have is I'm going to have it forever, right? So I guess if they diagnose me with anxiety, then maybe I just am going to have anxiety for the rest of my life. Maybe I'm going to have ADD for the rest of my life. Maybe if your child is diagnosed with ADHD, how many antibiotics has your child had since birth? How many antibiotics are you giving? You know what I see? I see the child be born. I see them immediately mess up the microbiome. We get a C-section. You know, nowadays they're taking vaginal swabs and rubbing it on the face of the newborn child so that they can be properly inoculated with the mom's bacteria, the microbiome, so that they could properly have a microbiome. And so this child comes along without the proper microbiome, and then the mom has to go back to work, or the mom doesn't feel like breastfeeding, and then we start to give the child formula that's corn syrup solids. And then all of a sudden, we have destroyed the gut. And what's happening? We've got an allergic reaction going on. And the allergic reaction is filling the ears with fluid, which is causing the fluid to become infected. And then what are we going to do? We're going to go give them an antibiotic right off the bat. Let's give them an antibiotic. Then we'll have another infection. Then we'll give them another antibiotic. Then we'll give them another infection. Then we'll give them another antibiotic. And then we got to have tubes. And the only thing the tubes do is just let the fluid run out of the ear. They don't solve the allergic response. And then maybe we get the kid to second, third, fourth grade, and now all of a sudden he's got ADD or ADHD. And we haven't considered the fact that he's a self-healing organism and that he has an innate intelligence, and that we might have put this child in an environment that's incongruent with health. So what should we do? Should we medicate that child to the point to where we just keep medicating them and just keep medicating them and then keep feeding them cereal for breakfast or Pop-Tarts? We'll just feed them some more Pop-Tarts, and then every time we feed them a Pop-Tart, we'll feed that crackhead bacteria that's in their gut, and the crackhead bacteria just grow and grow and grow. It's like having poison ivy in your flower bed. You just got poison ivy all over your flower bed, and you just going and finding poison ivy food and then feeding your poison ivy more food so that you just have more poison ivy in your flower bed. Like, that doesn't even make any sense, right? So what's the solution? Because I'm not trying to rant. What's a solution to this? Understand that you're a self-healing organism. Understand that your cells are trying as hard as they can to express health. Every single cell in your body, excuse my language, but you don't have any half-ass cells. You don't have any cells that wake up in the morning, look outside, and say, dude, it's too hot, I'm going back to bed. Every single cell has a passion for life. It has an innate intelligence. Every single cell in your body, however many there are, 70 trillion cells, whatever that is, those cells will try as hard as they can to express health if you put them in an environment that expresses health. And if you don't put them in an environment if you put them in an environment that's incongruent with health, you will find out that they will express a symptom to let you have feedback, like that girl's knee did, that it's incongruent with health. So we got to get to eating normal, regular foods. We got to get back to eating good fats and good proteins. We got to get off of refined carbohydrates. You're not hooked on refined carbohydrates because you love the carbohydrates, because if I cut the receptors out of your tongue, you would still eat them. You're hooked on them because your brain is hooked on them. And so we got to break that. And you can break that. You can break that in just a few short weeks. Trust me on that one. We got to get you moving and get on your feet. It is amazing what is happening in my office back there on that AlterG. I get constant feedback from my patients who are going back there walking on that AlterG, and they're saying, I cannot believe how much better I'm doing since I've been walking. I cannot believe how much better my daughter is, that we have to pick up out of her wheelchair. She has to give me a hug around my neck. I have to pick her up. I lean over in her wheelchair. She puts her arms around my neck. I pick her up. I take her over, and all four of us, there's four of us that get her in that AlterG. We put her in that AlterG. We turn it on. She tells me about her day. We find something to talk about. And her mother says, it's just amazing what happens when she comes and walks. We eat the right foods. We get our sleep. We get adjusted, make sure our nervous system is functioning properly. We get on our feet and walk and exercise, and we can get our body in an environment that's congruent with health. That's my show tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of it. I knew I wasn't going to get to that carpal tunnel because I was going to get passionate. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow night. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 6.